Good afternoon, everyone. Today is March the 2nd, 2023. Welcome to our council meeting. This hybrid meeting is being held in person here at council chambers and electronically in accordance with section 238, subsection 3.3 of the Municipal Act and section 16.6.24 of the City of Woodstock Procedure Bylaw. This meeting is being live streamed to the city's YouTube channel, and a recording will be posted on the city's website following the meeting. The meeting will also be broadcast on Rogers TV. An agenda of the meeting can be found on the Agendas, Meetings, and Minutes page of the city's website. Councillors attending virtually will be raising their hands in view of their webcam when moving a motion, requesting to speak, and when a vote is being taken. If a member of council is disconnected or having technical difficulties, we will take recess in order to attempt to rectify the issue. If technical difficulties exist that prevent the meeting from continuing, the meeting will be adjourned and reconvene at a later time. If a councillor attending virtually needs to leave the meeting at any time, they're requested to inform the clerk. And today, so used to evening meetings. This afternoon, Councillor Wismer Van Meer will be reading the resolutions. And with that, we will start. Any closure or disclosure of conflict of interest? Seeing none. Matters arising from the minutes, and now the minutes. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Wheaton, that the minutes of the regular meeting of Woodstock City Council held on February 16th, 2023, and the minutes of the special revenue budget meetings held on February 21st and 23rd of 2023 be adopted.
Thank you. Any questions, discussions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. Thank you. Next, we have additions to the agenda. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Lauder that the following items be added to the agenda. Department Report Item 14.A.2, Safe Restart Agreement, Public Transit Funding Phase 4. Department Report Item 14.A.3, 2022-2023, Dedicated Gas Tax Funding for Public Transportation. Department Report Item 14.A.4, Court Security and Prisoner Transportation Transfer Payment Agreement. Bylaw 9582-23, a bylaw to authorize the execution of the transfer payment agreement for the Safe Restart Public Transit Funding Stream Phase 4. Bylaw 9583-22, a bylaw to authorize the mayor and the director of administrative services to sign the letter of agreement for the transfer of dedicated gas tax funds for public transportation program. Bylaw 9584-23, a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign an agreement between His Majesty the King and Right of Ontario, represented by the Solicitor General for the Province of Ontario, for court security and prisoner transportation. And bylaw 9585-23, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 8626-10 as amended.
Thank you. Any questions of council? Seeing none, all those in favor? None opposed. Thank you very much. Presentation, there is no presentations, but we do have a delegation. So I'd like to welcome up Woodstock Minor Ball 13 and under National Baseball Championship. Jeremy, thank you. Mike is yours. Welcome.
Thank you. To your worship and to the councillors, thanks for having us here today to talk about our 13U national tournament. Woodstock Minor Baseball, I'm representing Minor Baseball on this one. We had the tournament back here in 2018. And if you recall, if any of you came out to the ball games, it was in August 2018. And we had 8 teams in that tournament, and it was located out at Cowan Fields or at Cowan Park. And it was a successful tournament, had crowned a national champion for Canada and for kids that were 13 and under. We were supposed to have the tournament again in 2020, and unfortunately COVID happened and that tournament was canceled. So this tournament's been on a bit of a hiatus for a couple of years, and we're pleased to announce that through our successful bid, Woodstock was awarded both 2023 and 2024. And the reason it's important to have 2 years of this tournament is there's certain expenses that happen, certain augmentations that need to happen to diamonds to be able to run a successful tournament. And by having 2 years in a row with the tournament, that allows you to have some synergies and to have some of those costs span out over a couple of tournaments. So is my presentation? Great. Here we go. So this year, the tournament started out at 8 teams. It got expanded to 10 teams, and it's exploded into 12 teams. So we have an actual team from every province. There'll be 2 from Ontario. We also have a Woodstock team that is allowed to enter the tournament and represent our city on a national level and get to compete. So, you know, having our actual team in this tournament is a huge boon for our kids, because normally they wouldn't have this opportunity, because the teams that are coming here are the AAA type teams in each of the centers competing at a AAA level, and then a provincial team is awarded. So the fact that our kids get to play in this tournament is just huge. So we get to augment our team a little bit, make them a little more competitive, but they have such a heck of a time competing and being treated just like every other provincial team in this tournament. You know, we're going to have hundreds of athletes, parents, officials, sports leaders, and you know, this is attended by, you know, municipal leaders, provincial leaders, federal leaders. They, you know, this is a very big deal for the sport of baseball, and this is the equivalent of the Little League World Series for Canada. So it's a pretty important tournament. We're looking at, you know, in terms of community economic impact, why do we want to bring this to the city of Woodstock? Number one, we want to show off our great diamonds, our great organization, our great city. But there's also a community economic impact, which, you know, we're looking at ourselves, WNBA, we're spending $143,000 ourselves within the city. But then there's the potential for the community spending, which brings us just under $500,000 of revenue coming into the city. So we're excited about being able to not just showcase, but bring, you know, some economy into our city. We did apply, you know, our budget for Woodstock Minor Ball to run this tournament is about $185,000. We are only guaranteed $60,000 of income through the tournament. Teams, they only pay $5,000 each. So we're only guaranteed $60,000. What we have to do with that $60,000 is transport the teams to and from the airport. We have to house them, we have to feed them, and we have to get them to and from the tournament venue on a daily basis. So there's quite a bit of spending that goes on. So we're going to be going out into the community in the next little while, looking for sponsorship, people who would like to, you know, put themselves out and get some sponsorship for, you know, for the program. We're going to be looking for volunteers that will be interested in both pre-tournament planning, as well as, you know, during the venue, being there for ticketing, being there for, you know, concessions, gates, revenue. You know, we're going to have a beer garden. So anyone that wants to come out, we can have a nice beer and watch some baseball. So, but we're going to be out there in the community. If anyone is interested in getting involved with the tournament, either pre or post or sorry, during the tournament, please go to woodstockminorbaseball.com. And there's an area there for tournaments, and you can do the contact us, and we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to have anyone that could come out. So I appreciate that. So if anyone can do that. And the last thing is, we had a slide here that was talking about what we're spending with Parks and Rec. Originally, we were talking about coming and asking for money from City Council. We're not coming to ask for money from City Council today. So we did actually do this through the community grants. So the original slide, I was talking to Brian, and he said, you know, this was the community grants portion. I said, absolutely, you're absolutely correct. The difference that happened between our application for community grants and today is the ballooning of how many teams when we applied. So the only ask I do have today is it potentially possible to go back to community grants on the second intake on the same project? So that would be my only ask, would be a permission to be able to apply to community grants. But that decision doesn't need to be made, but that would be the only thing that we could potentially ask for help with.
I'm
And,
just going to respond to you real quickly, if I may.
okay,
The deadline was March 1st to put any requests in.
then I'm out.
So, If you put something together really quickly, I can't make any promises. I'm not on.
I could have something in by the end of the day.
But I would suggest that.
Okay, I appreciate that. No, thank you. I did not look that up, but it was a short notice anyways. Anyways, thank you very much. Any questions?
Okay, questions of council? Councillor Schonberg.
Yeah, from the mayor through to Mr. Jensen, Jeremy Jensen. Actually, Jeremy was on the Recreation Advisory Committee for a number of years, so he's certainly been involved with minor baseball and the Recreation Advisory Committee in the city for quite some time. Any opportunity to get some funding or grant money through Baseball Ontario for this event? What may be some other sources besides, say?
We have put out specific grant requests for the very limited types of grant. So there's one for a hosting in Ontario. We did put that one out there. All of these different avenues try to augment or offset the $185,000 budget. Baseball Ontario, they support their teams that they're putting in from the provincial level. So that's where they kind of cut that they cut themselves off and say, well, we're already putting $10,000 in, but it's to send the two teams, unfortunately.
Anybody looks at the report online, you would certainly see some of the financials that you've compiled and costs of ball diamonds and whatnot. So I guess my next question would be to Brian Connors from the Parks and Recreation Department, just to give people a general idea as to how much it would cost to run a tournament, or basically day in and day out minor ball or slow pitch leagues, or anybody using the ball diamonds in the city of Woodstock, because there's certainly a specific cost to them, and it can add up for a large tournament.
Worship, through to the councilor's question. There is quite a lot of costs to running a tournament, dependent on how much staffing is required, or if there's modifications that are required. Otherwise, it is in the fee bylaw. We do have a tournament fee for ball diamonds and other sports fields. So it does have some variance depending on how big, and this is obviously at a national level. It's going to be quite a big one. So there is the tournament fees plus some additional dollar figures that can be captured.
I guess one last question, this time back to Mr. Jensen, just to give us an idea of sort of the tourism angle, as far as even the fact that Rogers Television, for example, broadcasted a lot of the games 4 years ago, but just the attraction to the city of Woodstock that way.
Yeah, so we will have a live stream of the games for those grandparents and parents who weren't able to travel with their provincial team. So they will be able to log in and actually see all their children's games. Last time I think we estimated, I think our gate was around 3,500 people came out throughout the entire tournament to come. We're obviously anticipating a lot more because we now have 12 teams. We have booked through all the available accommodations. I think it's in the range of 160 rooms or something that minor ball has booked. The rest of those rooms are open to obviously traveling parents. That's just to take care of officials, teams, coaches, Baseball Canada representatives. And, so we're looking at it saying we're going to fill all of Woodstock and then some in terms of hotels. So we've actually tried to get back out to the provinces to say, get your people, if you know what teams are coming, either block rooms now and then hand those blocks off. But there's going to be a significant amount of people coming into the city. Everyone's got to eat. And where they're going to eat, they're going to eat in restaurants. So the restaurants will be full. I apologize in advance for all the locals who want to eat at Kelsey's or any of the nice restaurants we have in town. You're probably not going to get a seat during this time. But just remember, that's all, financial impact. Just through the worship to Councillor Schadenberg. In terms of the tournament and some of the fees associated, I would like to say that, we are going to build practice mounds in our bullpen mounds, and that's part of the budgeting of what we're doing here. These are improvements because the last tournament was done at Cowan. There was no long-term benefit to having those practice mounds there because they're not diamonds for our youth. And so, you know, unfortunately, it was a good venue at the time. The decision was made by both the Parks Department and you know, Woodstock Minor Baseball that we would do this tournament in Southside. Why are we going to do it in Southside? Because that's where the youth diamonds are. Not to mention it's a beautiful venue to have a tournament in, beautiful scenery. And but we're going to have these practice mounds, bullpen mounds that are going to be built, which will be good for the tournament the following year. But at the same time, these are going to be used by Woodstock Minor Baseball on an ongoing basis. So this is an improvement that we look at as almost a capital improvement for our program and for our kids for a very long time. And then after that, it's just maintaining them on a regular basis. And we've got this much, you know, they're beautiful diamonds, you know, they're a class A diamond, and they're just going to be even better when we're done with them.
Any other questions of council? All right, seeing none. Thank you very much, Mr. Jensen.
Thank you very much.
No resolution is required as this item is dealt with under department reports, item 14D.1 for those watching at home. Thank you. No consideration of planning reports, but we do have consideration of correspondence. 10A 2023 walk for Alzheimer's sign permit request. I'm looking for a motion on the floor. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
I move that the city of Woodstock approve the request for the Alzheimer's Society to place promotional signs for the Walk for Alzheimer's, subject to staff approval from March 1st to May 27th.
And do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Lauder, discussion? Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Just kind of a comment as to why I support this. This is, we know that the Alzheimer's Society does a lot of great work locally, and we know that they've expanded to being more than just here in Oxford County. They've expanded to Middlesex and Elgin and such. Southwestern Ontario, I believe, is what they're under. But as somebody who lost a loved one to this terrible disease, I think it's great to support our local not-for-profits and helping them out however we can.
I agree. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. That carries. Thank you. Staff presentations. Ms. Reed, the Woodstock Art Gallery. And Leslie, yeah. Welcome.
Thank you. Just give me 2 seconds to get our presentation up here. Let you start.
Thanks. Good afternoon, Your Worship, Mayor Accioni, City Council, and members of the audience. My name is Leslie Sorochin, and I am the Chair of the Advisory Board. Along with Mary Reed, Director Curator, we will be presenting the gallery's 2022 operations year in review and plans moving forward into 2023. I would like to acknowledge some changes to the board. Martha Gingrich has now moved into the position of past chair. And on behalf of the gallery board and staff, we would like to acknowledge her positive force and guidance. During 2022, the board undertook the development of several new policies. I want to highlight the board's development of the policy on equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility. I am proud to report that the board completed the 4 Seasons of Reconciliation program offered by the First Nations University of Canada. We are also pleased to welcome local artist Aggie Armstrong and former Executive Director of Museum London, Brian Meehan, to the team. At the end of 2022, 3 members completed their term of service: Judy Dent, Lynn Moyer, and Natasha Velovich. I would like to thank Judy, Lynn, and Natasha for their dedicated service and commitment towards the gallery. The board's funding committee was also active. In May 2022, we launched a survey to learn more about the gallery's membership. The reason many people belong to the art gallery is for pure pleasure. The other accomplishment was the 2 campaigns which were supported through a generous matching donation by Dr. Leonard Reeves. Through these activities, the gallery was able to raise close to $20,000 in individual gifts. Thank you for your attention. I will now turn it over to Mary.
Thanks so much, Leslie. So I'm now going to share an overview of the gallery's operation, but I'm using our strategic plan as a guide. And just a reminder to all of you what our sort of 5 top priorities are. They're equity, diversity, and inclusion, capacity building, digital drivers, public engagement, and fiscal responsibility. In 2022, the gallery prioritized equity, diversity, and inclusivity in all of our operations. The gallery board and staff not only attended the 4 Seasons of Reconciliation, but we also did an excellent Safer Spaces workshop that was offered through the Rainbow Optimist Club. And due to the efforts of Sarah Cuthbert, Gallery Operations Coordinator, we became a Rainbow Registered Accredited LGBT+ safe space. We've also now become an institutional member with the Indigenous Curatorial Collective. And on tap for 2023 is the book Me Artsy. Each month, we will be collectively discussing the importance of art in terms of creating social change. The second DEI directive is to increase the representation of women and IPOC artists in the collection. During the March break, the gallery's education staff facilitated a hybrid art lesson with Indigenous artist Rick Beaver. This program was generously supported by A&A Environmental. In 2022, we also acquired 12 works by female artists, and this included the purchase of 2 works by Indigenous artists and Woodstock resident Maxine Noel. The acquisition of the work on the left that you see here was supported through the grant by the Elizabeth L. Gordon Art Program, and that grant was written by Head of Collections Jessica Benjac-Waitrose. It was also part of a very special presentation that was made to Oxford County Council in honor of the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. The second strategic initiative is capacity building, in particular about trying to preserve the organization's change nimbleness. For Family Day 2022, we were very thankful for the support provided by Toyota that allowed us to share 400 bags of art supplies and activities with as many young artists via curbside pickup. And then it's amazing to see what a year makes. For Family Day 2023, people were now lined up to get into the gallery. And I want to commend the gallery's education team, Stephanie Porter, Head of Education, and Deanna Logan, Education Coordinator, for developing this meaningful program. At the gallery, we saw close to 500 people that day, and healthy snacks were provided by the Children's Aid Society, and the entire day was supported by the Kinsman Group. The very quick adoption of digital drivers was certainly driven by COVID and has positioned the gallery to embed digital dimensions in all of the experiences we have with art. I would like to highlight the webinars we did in partnership with the Fanshawe College Fine Art program that you see here on this slide. Another example of a successful virtual program was our 2nd annual New Impressions High School Juried Exhibition. This program was sponsored by DJ Design with media sponsorship by Heart FM, and the Best in Show Award has been funded by Highlander Studios in conjunction with Why Not Us. Our new digital tour guide app was launched in the summer of 2022, and this app has been developed to enhance visitor experience as well as accessibility. The funding for this app has been provided by the province of Ontario, as well as through the federal program New Horizons for Seniors. And we cannot speak to digital drivers without considering digital communications. In September, the city of Woodstock brought on a new social media management platform called Sprout. This was spearheaded, obviously, by our new manager of marketing and communications, Colleen Collins, but Robin DeAngelis, who's the communications coordinator for culture, was heavily involved with this process. And a great feature about Sprout is that it can create campaigns. An example of a social media campaign is one that we recently did for the gallery's fall exhibitions. This included 24 posts and it had a whopping 9.3 engagement rate. Through its public engagement initiative, the gallery has continued to grow its profile by leveraging the launch of our new logo. Our new logo was developed by Interkip graphic designer Andrea DeBoer, And the design features a wreath of interlaced W's which symbolizes the Woodstock community that the gallery serves and inspires. In 2022, the gallery also sustained several valuable partnerships that meant that we were involved in a number of community events, including the BIA's Love Downtown Summer Market, Pride Family Day, Art in the Park, and Street Fest. And these events could not have been undertaken without the help of our excellent summer students. The gallery also developed a tripart agreement with our sister organizations, the Ingersoll Creative Arts Center and Tilsonburg Station Arts Center, as well as updating our existing MOU with the public library, outlining ways that we can all collaborate together on programming and promotion. One partnership that I'm very appreciative of is with our wonderful Woodstock Transit, which has been providing free transportation for one school per month to and from the gallery. And this program includes also a presentation from Transit on bus safety. And the last initiative is demonstrating fiscal responsibility by attracting and securing a mix of long-term funding streams. I've already mentioned several corporate sponsors and funders throughout this presentation, and I want to take the chance to acknowledge ones that I have not had a chance to thank. These include the youth employment programs that fund our summer students, including Canada Summer Jobs, Young Canada Works, and Welcome. The Oxford Community Foundation, Fidelity Investments, and Giant Tiger support our after-school drop-in programs for teens and children. And the Canada Council for the Arts and the Nicholas Matevier Gallery were key contributors to the John Hartman Traveling Exhibition. A new feature in our gallery lobby is our Tip Tap stand, which allows visitors to donate in lieu of admission with their credit card or debit card. And I'm also pleased to let you know that our signature fundraiser, Taste of Art, will be back as an in-person event in September of 2023. This seems now like a natural time to turn to the budget itself. The Department of Canadian Heritage provided the gallery with approximately $70,000 in COVID relief funding, and we received an additional $10,000 to offset the borrowing of the iconic work by Marcel Duchamp from the National Gallery of Canada. We also received an additional $50,000 from Canadian Heritage for the commemoration of the artist Florence Carlyle. And as we continue to return to in-person programming, we are hopeful to see increased participations with our school and summer programs. The revenues for exhibitions is reflective of the touring fees the gallery receives for the Hartman Touring Exhibition. In terms on the expense side, you can see that the building repairs budget line that we've been having ongoing issues with our HVAC system, which is crucial for the gallery to maintain its Category A status and borrow works from other galleries across the country. The gallery seating is also quite outdated and needs replacing. The service contract budgets line, however, has been reduced to be more reflective of past spending actuals. The meetings and budgets line was increased to reflect donor stewardship activities, as well as the mileage has been increased because we are entering into partnerships with our sister city in Sylvania, Ohio, as well as trying to facilitate several research trips for future exhibition projects. Last year, we also received funding from the Museums Assistance Program to create a digitization strategy. And the rather hefty lines that are attached to exhibitions in terms of transportation and professional fees are tied to the Hartman Exhibition Project and are offset with revenue lines recently mentioned. However, the professional fees line is tied to an additional Cresta-based budget, which if approved will result in a cost savings in this line. The travel budget is also reflective of the Hartman Traveling Exhibition, but again is covered by grant and private sponsorship funds. And finally, following along on our digital drivers strategic initiative is the upgrading of some of our AV equipment to be used in our future exhibition and education projects. I also want to bring your attention to the fact that the city's burgeoning public art program is embedded within the gallery's budget. Two projects that are currently underway are the Bruce Flowers Public Art Commission, which will be installed this fall 2023, as well as the Public Art Bike Rack Project, which will be installed throughout the city in the summer. And the project that is going to be gaining momentum in the coming months will be in honor of our amazing Florence Carlyle that we see standing here very confidently in the center with her self-portrait. These are just some of the highlights I wanted to share with you this afternoon. A more fulsome outline of the gallery's activities can be found in our annual community report, which I've already sent a working draft to council and will be available on the gallery's website in the coming weeks. This slide outlines how the work that the gallery does fulfills 7 of the objectives as part of the city's strategic plan. Certainly initiatives 1 through 7 are self-explanatory, but I feel it's important to note that the national and international reach of the gallery that we make certainly promotes Woodstock as an attractive destination. And in 2022, we also did a full conversion over to LED lighting, which was spearheaded by Kellen Hodgins Facility Maintenance and will result in savings and reduce our energy consumption in 2023. The additions to base budget are driven by 2 new opportunities. One is the move of the communications coordinator position out of culture and into the communications and marketing department. I do want to stress that I am fully supportive of this transition. However, it does impact the front desk coverage at the gallery. We are a very small staff in a very, very large building and require a part-time front desk attendant if council approves of this proposed position change. The second would result in a cost savings, and it's also a means to better serve the gallery's business continuity moving forward if the physical installation of artwork can be managed in-house versus working with a contracted outside provider. And I want to extend my sincere thanks to my fellow colleagues at the city, in particular Craig Wallace, our manager of building and facilities, who was the project lead on the gallery's much needed roof repair earlier in 2022. I'm also extremely fortunate to work with an incredibly talented team. All of the achievements outlined in this presentation are a testament to their passion and dedication. And lastly, I want to sincerely thank the gallery's advisory board for their steadfast support and guidance. To conclude this presentation, I want to leave you with a small selection of comments we've received over our supporters from the last year. Keywords such as helpful, impressed, amazed, and welcoming speak to the art gallery's importance to the city's citizens of Woodstock. Many thanks for your kind attention.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. Is there any questions at council to Ms. Reed or Ms. Sorochan? Sorochan? Thank you. My apologies. Before we move along here, Councillor Schattenberg?
Yeah, through to Mary Reed. I guess the one thing that was always nice to go is to the Art in the Park event, which I understand is going to be refocused this year, but it's kind of nice that it is going to be refocused right to Museum Square where the museum is and the art gallery. So that the events are going to be in June this year?
Yeah, so through the worship to the councillor's question, that actually sits under the umbrella of our fantastic new special events manager. And yes, she is repositioned that the new event now, which will be called Cultural Canvas, to Museum Square, and it'll be on June the 10th. And I believe the call to artisans went live about an hour ago. So you can find that on the gallery's website. But just another excellent way of how the city of Woodstock, we all work together to put together these amazing events. And, you know, Family Day just 2 weeks ago was a real excellent example of that.
And I might just throw in, because it's no secret, I love Taste of Art.
Yes,
I've
I
never
know.
been a fan, right? So I'm
We
glad
know.
to hear that. Thank you. Councillor Lauder?
I just want to comment and thank Mary for all the work that she does for the gallery and what she has brought to Woodstock. And the advisory board, we've had a great board and I'm on it again for the next term. And I look forward to working with all those that's on the board. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Wheaton?
Thank you through the chair. I don't want to put you on the spot.
That's
but
fine.
During the capital budget process, we talked about the 4th floor
Yes.
renovation, and that was contingent upon a funding,
Yes.
a grant.
Yes.
We know-
I have positive news to share once an agreement is provided. And I can't say any more than that.
Very good answer. Now, we'll make sure everybody realizes this is in your book, in the revenue fund budget book, pages 76 to 79. This is your opportunity if you have any questions on any of that as well. Okay, seeing none. Ms. Reed,
Okay,
thank you
thank
very
you.
much. I appreciate it. No resolution is required as this item will be dealt with as part of the budget revisions and approvals at the March 16th, 2023 regular council meeting. Moving along, Lindsay Harris, CEO, Woodstock Public Library, and Mary Ann Silverthorne, Woodstock Public Library Board Chair. Welcome.
Thank you.
Your Worship, Mayor Accioni, city councilors and administrative staff. Thank you for the opportunity for the Woodstock Public Library to speak to you concerning the work of the library, our programs, and our 2023 financial request. As chair of the Woodstock Public Library, it's my task today to introduce to you members of our board. The library board consists of 7 members, 4 appointed by council and 3 who are councilors. Appointed by councilors are myself and Ken Whiteford, who is right behind us. Both Ken and I are beginning our 2nd term. Danielle Berry, seated to my right, is vice chair, and Linda Waring, who sends her regrets, are the 2 others appointed by council. Both Danielle and Linda are beginning their 1st term. The councilors appointed to this library board are Kate Leatherbarrel. All of you will know her. Deb Tate, who is on the screen when the screen is visible, and Bernia Wheaton. Also at our meetings are the CEO and the administrative assistant. My other task today is it is an honor to present to you, the councilors and the mayor and the staff, our new staff CEO for the Woodstock Public Library, Lindsay Harris. Lindsay, this is her first time so-called in front of people. Lindsay began her role as manager of operations at the Woodstock Library in 2019 until 2022. With a Master's of Library and Information Science degree, Lindsay began her career at the London Public Library in 2007, serving in a variety of roles. Lindsay is an enthusiastic, energetic, and inspirational leader, passionate about the library and its programs, its people, and its involvement in this community. As a strong people person with an open door policy, she can be found at the check-in desk, even though she's the CEO. And when there's a need for a tech issue, I've seen her at the tech helping with the tech issue with the front staff, while simultaneously hiring 2 managers to fill vacant positions, implementing many other new changes and drafting a budget, all of which she has completed in the last, are you ready for this? 5 months. Now, I don't have to tell you people about this wonderful magazine that Woodstock has. It's called What's on Woodstock. But if you haven't seen it, which landed in my mailbox just the other day, I want you to know that there is an article that Lindsay has there, that she was interviewed and has there. Mr. Curry is nodding his head. And there is also extensive coverage of the library programs that are upcoming. Lindsay has also compiled another document that she's going to speak to, and we will give her that opportunity in a minute. The board is enthusiastic about the new environment we have witnessed to date and look forward to an exciting future with Lindsay as the Chief Executive Officer and her dedicated staff at the Woodstock Public Library. Thank you for listening, and Lindsay will give you all the budget details.
Thank you, Mary Ann. I'm coming up on 25 years working in libraries, and I'm still in denial, but here we are. So good afternoon, everyone. Today I will be covering the highlights of 2022, what we are excited about in 2023, and the highlights of the budget request for this year. If there's one thing that all library staff can agree on, it's that a library without the public in the building simply feels wrong. It may be surprising to recall that 2022 started with the library looking like this picture, empty. Due to the pandemic, the library operated in curbside service for much of January and February 2022, then slowly returned to normal services throughout the spring and summer. In mid-fall, we introduced operational hours on Sunday afternoons. Despite closures, uncertainties, and staffing changes, the library managed to complete a few outstanding projects, including the installation of a new security gate and patron counter, as well as the successful recruitment of an outreach librarian in September of 2022. As we reopened, it became abundantly clear that the public wanted to be in our spaces, at our in-person programs, and using our resources. There was a lessening interest in virtual content and a distinct increase in face-to-face interactions. While we are not at pre-pandemic numbers yet, 2022 saw an overall 4% increase in library use over 2021. The number of items borrowed increased 23% from 2021, and our in-person visits were up 82% as a result of lessening pandemic restrictions on spaces and services. One of the statistical highlights from 2022 is the reversal of a long-term ongoing trend that was noticed as early as 2017, namely the gradual decrease in overall active library users. In June of 2022, I'm very happy to report that trend ceased. For the first time in a few years, there was an increase to the total number of active users. In each subsequent month since June, up to and including February of this year, the number of active library users has continued to increase month over month. Of specific note is the addition of 1,736 new patrons to the library in 2022. These are community members that have never had a library card in Woodstock before. We are thrilled to welcome them, as well as all of our returning and longstanding patrons, back into our space. We know that the return to in-person programming drove much of this increase, as attendance at library programs rose 32% in 2022 to 17,928 participants. Throughout the pandemic, as always, the library offered a wide variety of programming for all ages and interests: story times, teen drop-ins, book clubs, travelogues, crafting groups, and much more. The format of these programs shifted multiple times in 22 due to varying restrictions. Our long-standing book clubs alone shifted from virtual to physically distanced outside in lawn chairs to finally back inside the building. Our very popular pub trivia program also finally moved from its virtual platform back into the Upper Thames Brewing Company space. In the end, the numbers can only say so much. It is the impact on the community that truly demonstrates the value of the library. Our patrons have told us that they love the library and what we have to offer, and that it isn't just the books and the movies and the programs, but also the relationships and connections they have with staff and with each other in the library that have an impact on their daily lives. We're very excited about 2023. Above all else, the library builds community. It builds connections. In 2023, we are dedicated to strengthening our current connections while also reaching out and establishing new ones. Sorry. You saw that once already. You don't need to see it again. We have a great new management team. They like making these things. They're fabulous. In 2022, we hired an outreach librarian. That key staff member has begun nurturing and fostering connections in the community at Brightside Hub and Operation Sharing, amongst others. Our librarians are also eager to participate in community events and engage with our community and partners, perhaps in places that people have not seen the library before. We will also work on building up our staff team with dedicated staff development days and enrichment opportunities. We also have a few outstanding capital projects to complete, including carpeting in the children's area and revitalizing our teen space on the second floor. To aid us in building services and connection, the library is adding 2 key programs to our back end in 2023. We recently launched the first of these products, Biblio Events, which is a clean and user-friendly program listing and registration platform. Both patrons and staff are already finding that this new platform is easily navigated, very intuitive, and a significant improvement over our previous methods. Additionally, the library is currently rolling out a behind-the-scenes platform that will modernize our email notifications and web forms. The program also supports the creation of tailored newsletters, which we plan to roll out in late 2023. Another exciting project that is scheduled to launch this spring is the library's new preservation station. This dedicated workstation will allow patrons to digitize their personal histories. The station will have the technology to digitize photographs, home videos, audio recordings, slide negatives, and more. We anticipate that it will be heavily used by the public. Moving on to the 2023 budget. Details on the library budget can be found on pages 94 to 96 of the budget booklet. And the library board is supporting a status quo budget for 2023, where status quo infers a return to pre-pandemic programming and service levels. We will be using 2023 as a new baseline for service needs, and as such may be requesting funding for an additional staff member in the 2024 budget cycle. There are 4 primary factors that affect this year's budget request. As I'm certain everyone is aware, there has been a hike in costs in all sectors: utilities, office supplies, and vendor increases for processing services and building maintenance. In addition, the increase in the cost of paper alone, unsurprisingly, has an impact on the library's book purchasing power. Our commitment to returning to full in-person programming and support for the activities of our outreach team have necessitated a return to our pre-pandemic level of funding in the associated budget lines. Tied to outreach are the new digital community engagement strategies discussed previously. We have reallocated funding from our computer supplies and maintenance budget to our software and licensing budget to account for these costs. Library management and the library board also strongly support the professional development of our staff team and will be devoting additional resources to learning and engagement in 2023. The increase to this line also accounts for the very welcome transition back to in-person conference attendance. The library also continues to work through its pay equity process, and as such, funds have been allocated to our purchase service budget line to support that critical work. Ultimately, the final ask for the library in 2023 is an additional $110,550, or a 4.1% increase over 2022. This increase will allow us to continue to provide exceptional programs and services to our community, while also support our work in building connections and relationships throughout. Thank you for taking the time for this presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions from council? Again, recognizing this is on pages 94 to 96 of your book as well. So this is your opportunity to ask the CEO if you have any questions. Or I'm sure Marianne would more than welcome to come back up if needed. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Not so much a question as much as a comment about the new technology of being able to digitize. My mom and dad probably have about 10 boxes of slides at home that I'm sure we would all love to have. So I think that's a great piece to add, because I think there are a lot of individuals in our community that probably have that technology still sitting in their closets and wonder what to do with them. So I think it's a great implementation for the library, and I'm actually excited about that. I might need to reserve some space.
Thank you.
Councillor Schenberg.
Yeah, curious about the line about transferring from the reserve for consultants. 40,000 was the amount for 2022, but it's up to 130,000 for 2023.
Yes, through the mayor, to your question, a lot of this has to do with our pay equity that we're working on with consultant services, as well as the result of that pay equity process.
Any other questions of council? Hard to keep an eye on the screen here too. Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that next up, we'll ask Chief Wilkinson, Woodstock Police Services Police Chief, and Ken Whiteford, Police Services Board Chair. I'm assuming you're both coming up now. Of course, this is the Woodstock Police Services 2023 budget presentation. Oh, and I'm going to back up a little bit. I apologize to everybody. for the Woodstock Library Board. No resolution is required, as this item will be dealt with as part of the budget revision and approvals at the March 16, 2023 regular council meeting, in case anybody was there. Mr. Whiteford. Thank you.
Good
Welcome.
afternoon, members of council and staff. Well, I thought about it. I don't have any rockets like Lindsay. But I did remember that police just acquired a drone, so we will have the drone flying around here next year. Just to add some spice to these kind of presentations.
Sure, you can get some lights and sirens somewhere. I mean,
Since I addressed council a year ago at this time, we have all experienced a year of transition. A year that saw us move out of pandemic conditions last spring to something closer to normalcy. For your police services board and for the police service, the transition has continued to underscore the change that policing is undergoing in Woodstock and beyond. This change has been most evident during the years of the pandemic, but it has not subsided within the past year. As one of our board members recently commented, the police service has moved beyond the stolen bike in the backyard shed. Our objective is still to respond to that kind of theft, but the response time leaves a lot to be desired. The reasons are quite straightforward. Our priorities have shifted to a higher degree of seriousness associated with crime in Woodstock, in addition to the sheer volume of calls. With these shifts comes more cost, whether it be equipment, resources, overtime, ancillary expenses. And this brings me to the 2023 budget that is before you. As a police service board, we are well aware of the magnitude of the ask. The budget was the subject of a thorough review dating back to our November meeting and culminating in its unanimous approval at the February 13th meeting. The mission of the board is to ensure the safety and well-being of all members of the community of Woodstock. And we believe that this budget reflects that mission, recognizing that 90% of the budget is devoted to human resources and the current lack thereof. Now, I've talked about change and transition, and those terms also apply to the board. Last December, Mayor Accioni and Councillor Lauder officially joined the board as council's representatives, and council's community representative, Daryl Stevenson, joined in January. These new members were welcomed by Vice Chair Leslie Farrell and myself. And I would ask Leslie and Daryl to stand and be recognized so we can associate a name with a face. Along with board changes came significant transition in the senior management team. Chief Wilkinson moved up from the deputy role officially on July the 9th after the retirement of Chief Longworth. The wheels were, however, already in motion to see the appointment of our new deputy, Nick Novicic, who has his first day on the job on July the 11th. I would ask Nick to stand and be recognized. More change is imminent as Inspector Marcy Shelton retired at the end of January. And with that, I'm going to now ask the chief to highlight the budget request in more detail. Chief?
Thank All right, good afternoon, Mayor Accioni, councilors. It's my pleasure to bring here today for this afternoon's presentation of the proposal for the 2023 police budget. So when we look at our community priorities, it's to keep Woodstock a safe and secure city. Our goals: increase visibility and our patrols, increase response times, increase in traffic enforcement. Also, we need emergency response capacity to keep pace with the growth of the city of Woodstock. And as always, our drug enforcement needs to keep continuing on. When we look at strategic priorities, number one, improved community safety. And there are a number of goals and targets that fall under that priority, including making our roads safer, enhancing drug enforcement, improving outcomes for victim, and a greater focus on the downtown safety. Number 2 is better collaboration and engagement with our community. We need to enhance communication of our key messages, expand community mobilization and risk intervention strategies. We need to engage with our diverse communities, our youth, and also our elderly and vulnerable populations. Number 3, strategic priority, enhance organizational excellence. Leveraging technology to make us more efficient in the use of our resources, looking after our members' mental and physical wellness, and enhancing our performance management and career developments. The question is, this budget is designed to ensure that we continue to be well-positioned, and are we, to address these priorities now and into the future? When we look at the police services demand on service, in the last 4 years, we've had some significant growth. Our calls for service are for 2022, 24,348. And that's consistent from 2019. There's no significant decrease in the last 4 years, and I would predict we'll maintain or rise from there. Let's look at further demand on service. And it's not just the number of calls, it's the types of calls we're seeing. The number of weapons calls related and the assaults, the number of impaired driving offenses. Our drugs and intelligence unit laid a total of 143 narcotic criminal code charges, and a total of $1.4 million in the sale of drugs was taken off our streets. A total of 105,000 in cash was seized. Weapons seized included 4 replica handguns, a handgun with an extended magazine, a taser, a crossbow. Locally, a warrant was executed on a house in Woodstock where 3D ghost guns were being printed. Who knows how many could be on the streets already? A ghost gun was being printed at the time of our entry. An impaired driving investigation, which used to take a couple hours, could take an entire shift. That's not to mention some of the time after to prepare Crown briefs for court and also prosecute the case. We've seen an increase, a large increase in the scale of our investigations, which requires specialized units to be called upon. These can be entry warrants, barricaded persons, missing people. All these investigations require specialized training, and they require specialized officers to come in and take over for frontline patrol. In 2022, we experienced our highest volume of our emergency response unit call outs than we have any other year. Woodstock received a total of 31 break and enters last year, with a total loss to our residents of Woodstock of $300,000. Let's look at further demand on our service when it comes to unwanted persons. You'll see the number is close to 1,200. Unwanted persons is one of our highest calls. Every one of these calls requires 2 officers to attend at least. To break it down a little further, 549 calls were in regards to persons experiencing homelessness. 99 were dealing with persons using drugs. 122 were unwanted persons in banks, stairwells, and bathrooms. We've experienced 94 calls regarding an overdose occurring. 10 of these calls in 2022 resulted in deaths. Each death is treated as a major case. It's fully investigated and could take weeks to investigate. For our 2021 numbers, the amount of overdose deaths was 17. Also, our arrests are steady from 2021 and 2022. You'll see the rise that we've experienced since 2020. Again, each arrest takes an officer off the road for approximately 2 to 4 hours to do paperwork, depending on the nature of the arrest. to complete reports and also prepare a court case. We know the population in Woodstock will continue to rise. By 2025, we're looking at about 50,000. When we look at the growth of Woodstock in this graph, if you can see it from here, the blue line is our population, which continues to increase at a similar rate to our calls for service, which is the red line. The green line represents the linear path that our calls for service is taking as we proceed into 2023, which will continue to trend upwards on the same trajectory as our population growth. What's our return on investment? The investments made in 2023 will allow us to maintain and continue providing our special victims unit, which assists with human trafficking, sexual assault, and domestic violence investigations. It will also allow us to maintain our dedicated community engagement officer who rides with our MHART engagement team. And it will also assist us with further frontline patrol officers. When we look at our radar charges and criminal code charges, they continue to be high. Of the 1,200 criminal code charges, 70 are impaired drivers. Most of these are complaint-based. Somebody calls in to complain that there's an impaired driver. This is due to officer strength. Our officers aren't out on patrol. They need to be afforded the opportunity to be more proactive and not reactive. There's a need to be out on patrol, patrolling our neighborhoods day and night, checking vehicles and suspicious persons, making our best attempt to provide a safe and secure community. Drug charges have had a significant increase, as you can see, from 2019. Those are meaningful drug charges. We rarely charge someone with simple possession. These majority of charges are those that are involved in trafficking or bringing drugs into our city. And as I've explained before, a number of police investigations have ended with loaded firearms and weapon seizures. Those could be in a house, but those are also traffic stops. But we need to continue to build on that base and increase our staffing levels and technology to keep pace with the growing community and increase workload into the future. These staffing increases are required to continue working on a safer community and also to keep our officers safe. Impacts affecting the 2023 budget. We've had a significant decrease in court security revenue from 2023. Significant increases in vehicle and fuel prices. We also need to continue leveraging technology. We have to continue to expand our technological capabilities so we can work smarter, make more efficient uses of the valuable resources we are deploying on a daily basis. We have to continue to invest in our digital evidence management, which will diminish times officers spend handling and redacting the volumes of digital evidence we receive in preparation for court, and make use of cloud-based technology to provide seamless disclosure of digital evidence to the courts and eliminate the need for costly storage servers and time-consuming processes. This alleviates the time an officer would have to go and pick up video, burn discs, and make disclosure copies for the Crown. And it also helps with also improvements to our computer-aided dispatch center. We've identified an increasing workload in our 911 communication center for our dispatchers. The enhancements we plan to make with our phone system, computer-aided dispatch, will diminish workload for our communicators, and will put information at the fingertips of our officers in their cruisers, whether that be from a cell phone or a computer-aided CAD terminal in the car where they can see calls for service and attend. We also must continue to invest in our business analytics software, allow us to leverage data to set priorities, develop policies, and also assist with our decision-making on where we deploy our officers. Cybersecurity is not cheap. We have cyber insurance, but we don't have enough security within our service to protect us. And we know after a cyber attack, we've learned from our previous experiences and how much that costs. Other factors affecting the 2023 budget will be salary increases. And when you consider about 90% of our budget goes towards human resources, this is obviously a significant driver. With contractual raises, an increase in WSIB, we were close to 4% before even adding any officers or technology to this budget. Also, the impact would be increasing our staffing levels. We have an increased cost in benefits, insurance. Our benefits costs represent about 7% of our overall budget. When it comes to insurance, our auto insurance is going up 15% and our general liability is going up 11% for 2023. When we look at needing officers on the road for uniform patrol, we look at Woodstock Police Service and we have 13 officers currently off on long-term WSIB. The chances of those officers returning to full capacity as an officer with Woodstock are slim. If people come back from WSIB, a lot of times there's a lot of modifications that are needed in regards to the calls that they can attend and what they can do. Just to explain some of the things that we've done, we have 13 officers off on long-term WSIB, 2 civilians, 1 officer off on long-term sick leave, and 1 officer suspended, and 1 officer restricted to desk work at this time. When we add that to the 13, there's a total of 16 officers that are unavailable for frontline patrol. We are running overtime almost daily. In recognition of this, we continue to provide ways and assistance to our members in many ways. We've formed a wellness committee, which encourages a healthy work environment to our members in many ways, encourages a healthy lifestyle and well-being. We've also introduced a peer support team consisting of 10 members and a police chaplain. Those members are trained by a clinical psychologist in crisis management, and they're able to support our members on a wide range of incidents, including personal life issues and debriefing of traumatic incidents that our officers experience. We also have our employee assistance program, and we also have $5,000 benefit towards our mental health assistance, where a member may choose who they would like to reach out to for assistance. Continuing on, before operational stress is an 8-hour online training program, which we've just introduced. This assists members in recognizing and understanding why they're feeling the way they are and helps with coping mechanisms to deal with some of their concerns. We have a dedicated quiet room within our police headquarters for members to take the time to refresh when the day gets busy and too overwhelming. Implementation of a wellness check, which we've just rolled out 2 weeks ago. It's an employee wellness check-in with a clinical psychologist. This opportunity is afforded to every member within the police service. So what we're asking for staffing in regards to the budget, we're looking for 10 additional officers added through 2023. This intention is to add the hires to assign them to frontline priority response in order to allow for improved response times. When our community survey went out, 70% of citizens, this was the highest answer on the surveys, did not approve of our response times. This will allow for additional proactive patrol time in the city, which is needed rather than all reactive. More proactive foot patrol downtown and in our parks and trails. Have better capacity to staff our patrol zones as we anticipate more patrol zones needed as the city needs to adapt to the influx of residential growth. And improvement on safety and security within our community. I'll elaborate a little bit on why this is needed I started my career in 97, so I'm almost in my 27th year. Without giving the exact numbers out, there was a minimum number of officers to handle the city back in 1997. We only have 2 more officers minimum, 27 years later, on the road to deal with the community. So when you're looking at 97 and 14,000 calls, now we're at 24 to 27,000. That's not enough officers to deal with the city, especially with the growth. Officers' caseloads are higher. Their exposure to traumatic events when there's less of them is much higher. The calls are being backlogged. Our response times some days are very poor. We know this, and the citizens have spoken that they are not happy with their police response times. Citizens of Woodstock, their top 3 concerns for their community are: number 1, drugs. Number 2 was worded, more patrols, more visibility, and more police. Number 3, crime and homeless downtown. Those are the top 3 priorities that the citizens have spoken. To accomplish this, we need more officers. So the service improvements expected because of this: more proactive policing, additional resources assigned. Let me just open this up here. Additional resources assigned to traffic enforcement, more strategic targeted enforcement throughout the city, and additional patrols and enforcement efforts downtown and in some of the parks and trails. That's in addition to the 2 core beat foot patrol officers we have now that are already assigned. I believe by having additional officers assigned to each platoon, we can provide some additional visibility downtown, which is what our downtown businesses community is asking for. And more visibility will impact people's perception and safety of the downtown. I've already touched on the need for increased technology improvements and the impact they'll have on workload in our dispatch center and our ability to more efficiently deploy our officers. So the bottom line, this investment is critical to ensure we are well positioned to meet the safety needs of our diverse, vibrant, and growing community, and provide effective and efficient policing into the future. So the police budget, projected operational expenditures, 22,523,238. Projected revenues, 3,092,329. And our projected net police budget, 19,430,909. This is a total increase of 10.98% over 2022. A total of 350,000 was moved from police reserves to try and ease this. We've also spread out some of our hiring to try and ease the budget implications for this. I realize this is not an insignificant ask. I acknowledge that this has impacts on taxes and families. I have always taken fiscal accountability part of my job very seriously, but another part of my job is maintaining the safety of this community as a chief of police. Those are decisions I have to make. This also includes the safety of our police officers when there's not enough out there. And I believe that the funding requested will allow me to continue to do that. This city is growing and your police service needs to grow with it. And in order to continue to provide effective and efficient policing now and into the future, this is a need.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions of the chief? Councillor Lauder?
Thank you. This is a comment, not a question. In joining the board, it has been made clear to me the need for additional officers to carry out the mandate of the police service to make a safe and secure city. And thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, before I ask again, I'm going to echo that. As someone new on the police board, I just want to say thank you to the police board. Thank you to the chief, the deputy chief. We actually walked into this this budget looking at a big increase, of course, when we look at it. And now that we understand it and everything else, I'll fully support it because I think this is kind of a minimum we've got to maintain at this point. It's a tough position for you to be standing there and ask, so I certainly appreciate that. I think the public has been very vocal and showing their support and recognizing this is needed in a growing city. But I know this is a big ask, so thank you and the board that have put all this work in
Thank you.
for this. But
Thank you, Your Worship.
is there other questions at council, or of course, I'm sure the police board would answer anything if they could as well. Councillor Leatherborough.
Through your worship to the chief, thank you for your presentation. I just had a general question from the public about what is MHART, if you could just elaborate, and if this budget ask will further support that position.
Yes, MHART is our mental health engagement and response team. They are clinicians that ride with one officer each day. I'll go into a little depth. We have a community engagement officer, and that officer works his schedule, but he works in partnership with MHART. With one officer attached to our I'll call it CEO and MHART, just because they work side by side, they can build a rapport with people and maybe de-escalate situations better. When you're talking adding people to our budget, that officer only works a certain time. Has holidays. So yes, our officers always ride with our CEO. When the CEO's off, they take the person out. Also the officers have access to that person if they're on a separate call. I know MHART has increased their numbers as well to 4, and there'll only be one attached to us and one attached to the OPP, but definitely more bodies. Will get them out there on the days that the CEO is on vacation or on his regular days off. If we don't have enough officers, then they will have to sit in the office.
Thank you. I actually had that written down the night of the operation sharing. I got talking to somebody from the general public about MHART. They had no idea what it was, and they were very excited by that. So thank you. I was going to actually ask you for that description for the general public, those watching. So that worked out perfect.
I can elaborate on that just slightly. That team that works together, they go out daily and they check on people. They don't wait for a call. They're constantly on the move, and they'll check on someone who's experiencing homelessness, maybe addiction or a mental health issue, and they'll have a checklist where they go and they check on. They know where people are staying. They'll check on them. They'll leave cards. If an officer's on a call and they have interaction, our MHART team will get notification and they'll be able to reach out to that person and provide some community resources, or to direct that person to operation sharing where there is more resources available.
Thank you. Any other questions of council? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, everyone.
No resolutions required, as this item will be dealt with as part of the budget revisions and approvals at the March 16th, 2023 regular council meeting, as the others previous. There's no mayor's report, no council reports. We do have some department reports. 14A1, expenses not included in the preliminary revenue fund budget. I'm looking for a motion. Councillor Shanberg.
Woodstock City Council approved the report regarding expenses excluded from the 2023 preliminary revenue budget fund.
For a seconder. Councillor Leatherborough. Discussion. Councillor Shanberg.
Maybe we just have our CAO, David Creary, or maybe the Director of Administrative Services, Diane Campbell, explain this.
Your worship, through to Councillors question.
This is a requirement that we have to do each year under the Municipal Act in order to reconcile what we call a PSAB surplus, which is the Public Sector Accounting Board standards and the way that we present our audited financial statements as compared to how we do the revenue fund budget. There's differences, particularly with amortization as a non-cash expense. And so we have to come up with what the surplus would be in the event that we budgeted for amortization instead. And in this case, this year, it's about $2.4 million. It's different. It all reconciles as we do our audited financial statements, but just to make council aware that there are differences in the two processes. And with respect to the post-retirement benefits, which is the other portion, we are funded for that, so there's no impact.
Someday I'll have to come into your office. We'll set up a whiteboard, Diane, and go over amortization, depreciation, and asset management programs.
Sounds like exciting. Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. Thank you. 14A.2 Safe Restart Agreement, Public Transit Funding Phase 4. Looking for a motion. Councillor Leatherborough,
Moved by myself that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the transfer payment agreement with His Majesty the King in Right of Ontario as represented by the Minister of Transportation for Safe Restart Agreement Phase 4, funding for municipal transit and the necessary bylaw be read.
thank you. Looking for a seconder. Councillor Wismer Van Meer, discussion? Or questions? Councillor Wheaton?
Thank you through the chair. Being as this has a phase 4, I know that through conversations, some other communities still have some safe restart funding held in reserves. Do we in the city of Woodstock have any safe restart money still in reserves? Your worship, through to the council question, no, we don't.
Any other questions of council? Okay, seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. It's carried. Next is 14A.3, 2022 to 2023 dedicated gas tax funding for public transportation. Looking for a motion. Councillor Lauder, seconded by Councillor Leatherborough.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council refer the report regarding 2022 to 2023 dedicated gas tax funding for public transportation to the bylaw section of the agenda.
Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? None opposed. Carried. Next, 14A.4 Court Security and Prisoner Transportation Transfer Payment Agreement. Looking for a motion. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
That the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the transfer payment agreement with His Majesty the King in Right of Ontario as represented by the Solicitor General for the Court Security and Prisoner Transportation Program, and that the necessary bylaw be read.
Thank you. And a seconder. Councillor Wheaton, discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? None opposed. Carried. Thank you. Now into engineering, 14B.1 Sprucedale Road Reconstruction, contract number 11241 tender award. Looking for a motion. Councillor Lauder, seconded by Councillor Schadenberg.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council award the tender for the reconstruction of Sprucedale Road to the Yukon Construction Limited in the amount of $1,696,579.32 inclusive of HST. And further, that council approved the use of $182,000 from the reserve for capital projects.
Thank you. Discussion, Councillor Schadenberg.
Yeah, from the mayor through to engineering department, just to clarify for anyone who obviously lives on Sprucedale Road, this is to go from Springbank to Abbott Place essentially, so it's not all the way across.
Your worship, through the councillor, that is correct.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll call a vote. All those in favor? None opposed, carried. Now down to 14D.1 Woodstock Minor Ball National Championship. Looking for a motion? Counselor Leatherborough,
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council receive the report regarding Woodstock Minor Ball National Championship as information and supports Woodstock Minor Ball in hosting the U13 National Championship for 2023 and 2024 at Southside Park.
looking for a seconder? Counselor Shattenberg, discussion? Counselor Lauder?
Through to Mr. Connors, through the mayor. I just wondered if the 15,000 that the grant that we have that has been provided, was passed last fall, November. So would there be additional expenses? Is that what they're really requesting here, or can you just explain that to me?
Your worship, through to the councillor's question. The group, when they presented just now, kind of didn't put that forward. I think that was probably a wise move, as they haven't spent the 15,000, and in 2018 they did not receive additional monies to hold the national championship as well. So I think it would be a bit of a dangerous precedent. There is a path to go through, which is the grant process, but I think asking for fee rollbacks and reductions, you would have a line outside the door of the next council meeting for everyone else asking for the same thing.
Thank you very much.
I think I saw someone else with their hand up. Counselor Shattenberg?
Yeah, maybe just a comment at this point, because my question was referring to the $15,000 grant that council had approved last November. But just to sort of say, with 12 teams coming from every province in the country, in August to the city of Woodstock will be huge. And the under 13 age division is a sort of a very competitive age group to be involved with for this. So I wish the Woodstock Minor Ball Association all the best of luck at this tournament.
I think there's going to be some good baseball to watch for those of you that like to watch some baseball. Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? None opposed, carried. Now on to economic development, 14E.1, adoption of downtown Woodstock facade improvement guidelines. Looking for a motion? Counselor Leatherborough.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council adopt the downtown Woodstock facade improvement guidelines as presented.
Looking for a seconder? Counselor Wismer Van Meer. Discussion? Counselor Wheaton?
Yeah, through the chair, I just want to make a comment to my neighbor here, Hammond, that I appreciate the presentation, appreciate the amount of information that was put together. Facade improvement programs are so important to the vitality of a downtown. And to be able to give clarity to business owners on what the expectations are in the program, I think makes it a smooth program for business owners and for the committee that makes these decisions. And so fully support the project.
Thank you. Counselor Lauder?
I would like to just comment on it too, that I think there's so many interesting things here, and if they can carry out even 3/4 or half of them, it'll make our downtown very nice to visit. And so I hope that we can proceed with this and see these things happening. So thanks to Mr. Brad Hammond for bringing this forward and all the work he's been doing on this.
I'm actually going to ask Mr. Hammond to speak to it, only because there's so many people talking about this online and everything already that I was quite surprised. And this is a good news story. This is great for downtown Woodstock. So thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. I'll try to be brief. Quite frankly, this is a project that we had last year. It was something that's been needed for a while. that when a business or a property owner applies for a facade improvement in the downtown, historically, we've always got into a bit of a negotiation in terms of, is that the right type of window or the right type of brick? And there's a bit of back and forth. So as Councillor Wheaton indicated, this will really streamline it both for the applicants and our committee that reviews.
Excellent, thank you. Any other questions from council? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? None opposed, carried. Thank you very much. 14E.2, sale of 625 Parkinson Road. Looking for a motion. Counselor Shanberg,
Make a motion that the property at 625 Parkinson Road be declared surplus and sold from the city's land inventory. And for the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign an agreement of purchase and sale with Oxford Builders, Inc. and the necessary bylaw be read.
looking for a seconder. Counselor Wismer Van Meer, discussion. Counselor Shanberg.
Since Mr. Hammond from our development office is here again, certainly like to ask him, how did this 625 Parkinson Road become surplus? And I guess it's going to be sold for a residential purpose.
Thank you. For anyone that's lived in Woodstock for any amount of time, you may remember there was a hydro transformer station there for quite some amount of time. When we sold Woodstock Hydro to Hydro One, it was, I guess, wasn't needed for the system anymore. Not really sure of the technical reasons, but anyway, it wasn't required. The transformer was removed and we cleaned up the property. And quite frankly, the city had no need for the property. So it seemed like a really good residential infill site, particularly in that area.
Any other questions or discussion? Counselor Wheaton.
Yeah, through the chair, I just think that whenever we have the opportunity to infill and create this opportunity, fully supportive of it because it alleviates the need to sprawl further out into our rural community. So great to see this opportunity.
I was going to say exactly that. Seeing no more questions, call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. Carried. Thank you. Under clerks, 14F.1, annual status report of the 2022 accessibility plan. Looking for a motion. Counselor Lauder.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council approve the 2022 status report for the 2018 to 2022 accessibility plan.
Looking for a seconder. Counselor Shanberg. Discussion. Any questions, comments? All right. Oh, Counselor Shanberg almost got me there.
Yeah, to the mayor, I guess the best thing for me to say is a former member of the Accessibility Advisory Committee. A lot of reports and work goes into this, whether it be AODA compliance in the engineering office and even the Parks and Recreation Department when it comes to things like widening and making more permanent pathways throughout the parks for gaining extra accessibility. And for example, it's one thing to sort of add a park as they did. I'm going to get the name of it right. The park out on Petulo. Where it's one thing to create the brand new park and then it's another thing to sort of go back in and make sure it's accessible as it can be for a park through nature. And I forget the gentleman's name, but it was a former high school teacher and artist in the city of Woodstock that the park was named after on Petulo. I'm sure Deb Tate would know what it is.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. Thank you. That's carried. 14F.2, MC 802, City of Woodstock Fireworks Bylaw, update short form wording for Municipal Code 802 Consumer Fireworks. Looking for a motion? Counselor Leathero.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council approves the short form wording and set fine submission as listed in Appendix A. And further that City Council authorizes the Deputy City Clerk to resubmit the necessary application to the Ministry of the Attorney General to seek approval for the proposed short form wording and set fine changes associated with the Municipal Code Chapter 802 Consumer Fireworks.
Thank you. Seconder? Counselor Wheaton? Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed, carried. Okay, moving along to Special Committee and Advisory Task Force reports, 15A. We have Woodstock Heritage Advisory Committee, Heritage Designation Bylaw 5246-76, 130 Finkel Street. Looking for a motion? Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
That the report regarding heritage designation bylaw 5246-76 130 Finkel Street be referred to the bylaw section of the agenda.
Thank you, and looking for a seconder. Counselor Lauder. Discussion? No? All right, seeing none. All those in favor? None opposed, carried. Next, we have a notice of motion. Counselor Leatherborough.
So moved by myself, put forth the following notice of motion for councilors' consideration that Woodstock City Council directs staff to prepare a report regarding recent complaints and corresponding enforcement of non-compliance with Municipal Code Chapter 802 fireworks, specifically with respect to section 802.11.1 and the discharge of fireworks outside of the approved holidays. And further, that the report include a review of actions being taken by other municipalities to combat similar non-compliance, including information on the option of banning the sale and discharge of fireworks outright.
Thank you, and this motion will be under new business at the March 16th council meeting. So moving along, no new business, 18 draft bylaws. Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Schadenberg that the following bylaws be given a first and second reading. 9580-23, a bylaw to provide for the sale of certain lands owned by the corporation of the city of Woodstock to Oxford Builders, Inc. 9581-23, a bylaw to amend City of Woodstock bylaw 5246-76, a bylaw to designate the property at 130 Finkel Street of architectural value. 9582-23, a bylaw to authorize the execution of the transfer payment agreement for the Safe Restart Public Transit Funding Stream Phase 4. 9583-23, a bylaw to authorize the mayor and the director of administrative services to sign the letter of agreement for the transfer of dedicated gas tax funds for public transportation program. 9584-23, a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign an agreement between His Majesty the King in Right of Ontario, represented by the Solicitor General for the Province of Ontario for court security and prisoner transportation. 9585-23, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 8626-10 as amended.
Thank you. Any questions of council on any of those? Seeing none, Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Schadenberg that the following bylaws be given a third and final reading. 9580-23, 9581-23, 9582-23, 9583-23, 9584-23, and 9585-23.
Thank you. Last chance, any questions on any of those? Okay, seeing none, I'll call a vote. All those in favor? None opposed. All right. Thank you, everyone. With that, Councillor Tate, I was going to go to, but she just signed off. So thank you, Councillor Tate, for coming in. She's not feeling well at all. So we all appreciate her doing it from home. I hope she's feeling better soon. With that, we're going to start with Councillor Wheaton. And everybody can note the chair change.
Thank you so much. Yeah, the opportunity to share. I just saw a post come through this morning that breakfast with the mayor on Tuesday, April 4th is coming up, 7 to 9 a.m.
You
at
don't know I'm
Southgate-
not a morning person.
I
eh?
neither am I, my friend, and, but I'll be there with you in support, at Southgate Center. So I believe it is, organized through the Chamber of Commerce, $30 for members and $40 for non-members. So I would encourage the public to come out and, hear a State of the Union. State of the city.
No pressure there, eh? No pressure. Counselor Leatherborough?
So seeing as we had an afternoon meeting, that means everyone's available tonight. The Woodstock Library is hosting Inwell staff, so join them for a screening of a film. It's called Safe, a Forest City Film Festival 2022 featured documentary, and participate in a question period following the film. It is free admission, but donations are encouraged. I'll add strongly encouraged if you can. And by our next council meeting, we will be in the thick of March break. So the city of Woodstock has events, as does the lovely art gallery and library. So I hope everyone has a safe March break, and I'm jealous for anyone going to a warmer place.
Counselor Lauder?
Thank you. And looking forward to attending the Century 21 21st fundraising event. And I understand this is to be their last one, but I think they might have said this before, but that's what they're reporting now. And on March 8th is International Women's Day. So looking forward to that event. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Wismer Van Meer?
I love how you always throw Councillor Schadenberg off there at that last minute. Just a few things. I know that International Women's Day was just mentioned. Oxford Women in Networking, Owen will be hosting their event on Tuesday, March 7th at the Southgate Center. That's in the evening. Ticket sales end tomorrow, Friday. And I'm honored to be the MC for that event again this year. I've done it for, oh gosh, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now, I think. So it will be a great event, and I encourage anybody to come out. This is not just for women to attend, by the way. Also that day, United Way Oxford are hosting their Tampon Tuesday. That is the day where they collect feminine products that are dispersed throughout our community in support, whether it's businesses, organizations, families. That's a great opportunity to help. That's not a cheap product for people to purchase, and it's great that we're able to collect these feminine hygiene products to disperse throughout the community. Also, just 2 quick congratulations that I want to pass along. First, to Operation Sharing. They opened their second in Tillsonburg this week. I know that Mr. Shapton and his crew are extremely excited, and I'm lucky enough to know one of the individuals that's going to be managing that location, and he's extremely excited to get started on that. So congratulations to them and everybody involved in that. I know that was a lot of work, and it's great to see that those services are expanding in Oxford County. And Alita Kingswood, I'm not sure if you saw this story of a 91-year-old Alita Kingswood from Woodstock who broke the rowing championship again this past week, 2 weeks ago. I read this story and I think, as a woman in her mid-40s, I ride my stationary bike for 10 minutes in the morning and I feel accomplished. And here's this wonderful person at 91 years young breaking these records. And she set the one for 85 to 89 in 2021. So congratulations, Alita, and thanks for making Woodstock proud.
And last but not least, Counselor Schadenberg?
Yeah, during the accessibility discussion, I couldn't remember the name of the trail out up at Tula Road. It is named after Herbert Milnes. Don't know if Brian Connors couldn't have remembered that name off the top of his head either. So I apologize to anybody walks out the great trail system out in the city of Woodstock out up at Tula. Herbert Milnes Trail Park is what I was referring to. I attended the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority annual meeting on Tuesday morning in London. So there's 3 names I want to note from that the annual meeting. Brian Petrie, who's the Ingersoll mayor, is now the chair of the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority. So congratulations to Brian. From Ducks Unlimited, Phil Holst, who's been a member or a representative of our delegation here several times. He was recognized with the Board of Directors Award for a number of projects, and most of them in Oxford County to do with things like Hodges Pond and of course Burgess Park and Brick Pond wetlands. So he received an award. And another gentleman receiving an award from Oxford was Frank McKay. He has an excavating company in Hickson, and he was recognized for the amount of work that he's done doing work for the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority as well. And if you're a fan of Gordon Lightfoot, Classic Lightfoot Live is at the Market Center on March 11th. I'm a fan of Gordon Lightfoot, but the website to see who some of the performers are that are part of this touring troupe, it's a lightfootlive.com. Or you can buy tickets through theaterwoodstock.com for this event, also 7 p.m. on March the 11th. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Most of the things here on my list have been mentioned now, but a couple I do want to throw out there. Operation Sharing, and of course, coldest night of the year. I want to say a big shout out to Scott McKeag. Without individuals like that putting it on themselves and organizing such a successful event, I never got the total amount, but standing up on that stage, there must have been 300 to 400 people, I'm going to guess, in that room. It was packed. It was fantastic to see. So thank you so much to Scott, his family, of course, you know, the sacrifices that go to make an event like that, but all the volunteers, those on council, and of course, everybody that donated. So thank you very much. Saturday night, of course, Golden Gala. It is a very special evening for my wife and I. We always look forward to that event. When I heard that this might be the last event for the Golden Gala, it's a little bit sad, but for those that don't know, 12, 13 years ago, I should get this right. I believe it's 13 years ago, we actually won the grand prize for a ticket to anywhere in the world. Well, we took that ticket and we went to Italy, and I proposed to Sarah while on that trip from Golden Gala. So that's why we've always held that event special in our hearts, to bring us there. And yes, she said yes, obviously. April, April 4th, of course, the mayor's breakfast. I hope some tickets sell. I hope somebody wants to come and hear what I've got to say. I'm going to be I've started working on that, but I'm going to need to fine tune it a lot. Owen event, of course, March 7th. I will be in attendance. Looking forward to that. And International Women's Day on March 8th. I'll be in attendance as well. So with that, I'll call for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Wheaton, seconded by Councillor Leatherborough. All those in favor? We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon and be careful of the snow tomorrow that's coming. Thank you.